Hello. Here I'd like to demonstrate the full potential of a combination of mods for Fallout New Vegas. These mods are Weapon Requirement System, Immersive Recoil, and Reload Reloaded. Other mods, such as Jamming Fix and Optional Tweaks, Standardized Damage and Health, as well as the Sawyer Rogue Rebalance Suite, including Bleed, in this case Bleedless, are also used, as well as many others, to create a very hard, very fair marriage of player and character skill. The philosophy here is, the weaknesses you may have in one set of skills can be made up for and strengthened in another. Here I have 6 shotguns, in ascending order of how well my character can use them. The primary stats affecting everything here are strength, agility, and guns. My character's strength is 4, her agility is 7, and her base guns is 39, currently 41. First is the Sturdy Caravan shotgun. Skill requirement of 25, strength 3, DPS of 54, 20 gauge buck. Bear in mind that all of these DPS numbers are from guns in unideal condition. I thought it was more authentic to simply not spawn them in console. Quick reload, and my character is able to wield this with very little difficulty. Bear in mind that I am using a combination of animation mods, which may also affect gameplay, especially reloading. Next is the short barrel shotgun, usually known as the sawed-off shotgun. Skill requirement 50, strength 4, DPS of 47, 12 gauge buck. There's a little bit of difficulty in holding it. My character struggles to keep it completely centered, but just judging on this Iron Sights picture, I think it's perfectly usable. Next is the pump action shotgun from Classic Fallout Weapons Remastered. Skill requirement of 50, strength 5, DPS 197, 20 gauge buck. Struggling a bit more, it really shows just how much being both unskilled in weapons use and just not having the physical capability to keep it upright matters in aiming, but it's still usable. If I were using this in a gunfight, I would have to be more careful than the last 2 shotguns, but, you know, as long as they're somewhere in the center of my screen, I can probably get a shot off. This is the point where the DPS and ammo count really start to matter in trying to figure out if using a gun like this under my stat thresholds is worth it. 197 is substantially more than the last 2 shotguns, and 5 shells go a long way in making mistakes easier to swallow. Next is the combat shotgun, used here in Tale of Two Wastelands. Skill requirement of 75, strength of 6, DPS 310, 12 gauge buck. 12 shells of 12 gauge, but that sight profile is not looking very confident. It's wavering and going well beyond where the center of the screen lies. The fact it's so high damage and so high capacity feels like cold comfort when compared to how poorly my character holds this gun. Heavy pump action shotgun, also from Classic Fallout Weapons Remastered. A bit of an oddball, down to 4 shells of 12 gauge, but requiring a skill of 80, strength of 6, and sporting a DPS of 252. Still very strong, but this is a gun that is clearly running more on look and feel than pure practicality. Here you can really see the struggle of reloading a gun that my character is unskilled with, each shell slowly inserted. The sight picture is slightly worse than the combat shotgun, but the reload perhaps being technically faster, especially with reload cancelling, might make this more appealing in a pinch. Finally, there is the Pancor Jackhammer, again from Classic Fallout Weapons Remastered. Skill requirement 1, strength requirement 10, DPS 253, taking 12 gauge buck. If my character met the stat requirements, I think this might be the fastest reload of any of the shotguns. It's still very fast, even at the slow speed it's going, and even though it looks horribly jank and unfinished. That speed alone would make the trade in damage worth it, but the shell count being lower than the combat shotgun might give pause. Now that all the guns have been introduced and are loaded, it's time to demonstrate their actual usage. The goal is very simple. I want to hit that target as many times as I can in 12 shots. That's the maximum a shotgun here can have, so it's only fair to keep them on the level. While I shoot, note things like recoil, aim sway, spread, reload speed, and unjamming speed. As the guns go on and their requirements become higher, also take note of how I attempt to compensate for their weaknesses, both in raw aiming and with the use of bullet time to assist in countering things like recoil and getting timing right. Alright, that's it. Begin shooting. At this point, you might be asking what the purpose of showing you this was. Put simply, I've always disliked the idea of damage being the only thing a skill and weapon can influence, but it's a pretty common trope for games. It's funny. Both Fallout 3 and New Vegas had plenty of systems in place to de-emphasize damage as a point for upgrading skills, but neither went far enough, either for time or worries of overcomplication. Using a gun, speaking as someone who has never fired a gun, is a very complicated thing. It's a true skill set, perfect for adapting to an RPG. And some RPGs have had really great implementation of guns and systems, like the first Deus Ex. I wanted to show that not only is it possible to have complicated guns in an action RPG setting, but it can actually be really fun. There's a thrill to finding a gun you just barely can't use, but is so much better than your current one. Lining up a devastating shot, especially in a game with quick deaths like the Sawyer Rogue experience brings. Knowing it's now or never, and you could be using your guns you're comfortable with, but this one? This is the decider. You make that shot, or you die. Plus, there's an honest funniness to finding a gun so far outside of your range that your character can barely comprehend holding it, let alone actually doing it. Watching the sway and imagining how difficult using this thing is gonna be, it's great, it's fucking hilarious. And yes, the fact I didn't like the way skill made damage numbers go up is why I use standardized damage and health, though not the health part. That just gets rid of skill influence on damage entirely, which pairs wonderfully with Sawyer Rogue and the fact that high-level armor and weapons can spawn whenever. But then, you know, that would be somewhat overpowered if skill requirements remain vanilla, so throw on recoil, more complex skill requirements, and complicated reloading mechanics, and then also throw on jamming while shooting to further even the playing field to make this high-level, all-the-time nightmare world manageable and fun. Finally, I honestly just wanted to discuss gameplay mods in this way. A lot of the critical analysis zeitgeist is dominated by this mindset that mods aren't worth including. Not to say that what I just did was, like, super in-depth critical analysis, but for whatever reason, like, I don't know, they're not the pure intent, they devalue the talking points, or acknowledging that improvements or alternatives exist maybe somehow takes away from the discussion of what the vast majority of people will play. If it's not a complete package, a total conversion, a major mod pack, then bringing it up, I don't know, invalidate something? That's what it feels like. And I think that's a shame. I wanted to talk about the genuine great things mods and combinations of them can bring to a game. Stuff you can't get anywhere else, stuff that you can personalize, stuff that can be better than what you get stock in a lot of games. Just because it takes more work on the player's end, doesn't make it less valid. Now, I'm not going to show you how to install these mods for two reasons. One, it's way out of the scope of this video and would really be boring. Two, I kind of hope that if you're watching a video on a complex interworking of mods that you're either decently skilled enough to follow install instructions and make it work, or you're interested enough in what you saw to learn how it works and give modding a go. Insert your own joke about the game crashing all the time here. I just wanted to show a very cool combo of mechanics that I think even non-modded games can learn from, and to show honestly what's possible in New Vegas gameplay mods. There's an incredibly deep and wild world of gameplay mods these days that you can really shape New Vegas into as soft or hardcore game as you want. It's a real treat. I've never seen this exact combination of stuff before in a game, but that is the magic of mods. Alright, that's it. Take care.